Go live and I will pull up YouTube.
Oh god, I can't believe I have to Google how to do Perl.
Google what?
Okay.
I hope you cannot hear those dogs barking.
I can't hear them, and also we're live. So
Yay!
I don't know if anyone is here yet. I'm going to just do promo or like retweets and shit to let folks know.
This reminds me, we need to get a good graphic for posting on Instagram because
We do.
yeah.
Kitty cats, what are you up to?
Okay.
Are you two being the silliest gooses? They are. They are being very silly.
Hi, Kelsey.
Hey, Kelsey. Hey, Joe. Where is my... Anyway, welcome to our December Station Bitch. It's been so long since I've seen folks.
2 weeks.
Yep.
This is what happens around the holidays because, like, both Ray and I are like going to be having adventures and
yes, 2 weeks. Like literally, at this time in 2 weeks, I'm in a plane.
Have you started packing yet?
I've started panicking. That's what I've started to do.
Well, at least you're ahead of me. I'm leaving very early. I'm basically essentially pulling an all-nighter Friday night / Saturday morning because my flight is disgustingly early. And it's just not worth it for me to be in, like, to get a hotel or something.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's gonna suck.
Are you also off to a foreign country?
I mean, Canada, so.
Hey!
Hey!
Yeah, I'm taking a bunch of time off and I'm very, very excited.
I have 9 more days of work this year and I cannot wait for my holiday.
Yeah, same. Like I've started to feel the like lack of vacation time I've had this year because I min-maxed all of my vacation for this trip. And I'm starting to feel the amount of work I've had to do. But yeah, Joe, you're like if you pushed a push pin through like Finland, it would probably land really close to New Zealand. In terms of like the exact oppositeness.
The antipodes, I think is what it's called.
Oh, I learned a new word.
Now I'm really curious about what the antipodes of New Zealand actually is.
Yes. Google that. Wait, what? I should think it's probably like. Does it actually land on a landmass?
Yes. Spain / Portugal-ish, depending on what island you're on.
Oh, so not exactly the opposite of the world. Joe, we were both wrong.
I mean, wait a minute. How close is Spain to England?
Like a couple thousand kilometers.
Oh, that's a lot farther than I thought.
How far is it? What's the flight time?
Like from UK to Spain?
Yeah.
From Finland to Spain is 4 hours, give or take.
Okay, so that's like Oregon to Chicago.
Yeah.
That's not terrible.
So it's like and from Finland to UK is a 2-hour flight. So I guess that like half the time.
Yeah, so that's Oregon to San Diego. I know like there's ocean and stuff, so I can't do like driving time. So I'm like trying to like approximate how long it takes for me to get places.
I mean, every single time I tried, like for example, if I'm telling like well, for example, Rachel, we were talking about this when I think we talked about this a little bit when you came to visit. Like the places where we went to, like Tallinn and Turku, are essentially like those are pretty, like, I would say, far off distances in like Finnish scale. And you were like, this
2
is
hours
nothing.
on a ferry. This is nothing.
This is nothing.
I know.
Nothing. This is like a nice day drive, and meanwhile I have to prep for this like for 2 weeks before I go on this major journey of 2 hours to another.
I've had normal work days where I've done 7 hours of driving, and it's been like expected.
Round trip
No.
or one way?
Round trip, like 3.5 hours one way, do a full day's work, 3.5 hours.
Now I need to check
back.
this, but I think one-way trip to Lapland from Helsinki is like probably 7 hours, maybe.
Okay.
Let's see.
Whereas, like, you're saying this, I'm like, I just drove 10 hours, like, one way. And I only was in 2 states. I didn't like, because, like, that type of drive on the East Coast, you're going through, like, 5 to 7 different states.
Mhm.
The East Coast is ridiculous.
Okay, so from Helsinki to Rovaniemi, which is not actually the most northern point of Finland, but it's like one of the major like towns in Lapland, is like 9 hours and 20 minutes. So, but it's like 826 kilometers. How long does it
So,
take to Inari?
For some perspective, if I wanted to drive from where I live to one of the coasts of the US, it would probably take about 14 hours.
What's the northernmost point of this country? I don't even remember.
Joe, I'm not sure that it actually is a quick drive for you guys in the UK. I mean, like Americans are like, oh, it's only like 60 miles. That's nothing. But I think the roads are different. Like in the US, you can pretty much go anywhere, hop on a highway. You're gonna get there at 75 miles per hour. I think the roads are a bit more
Sane.
Okay,
I
so
would say back country.
I just Googled it, and you can drive from the most southern point of Finland to the most northern point of Finland in 14 hours and 41 minutes. And
That'd be a long day, but doable.
Yeah. You could drive it in a single day. Most likely you would want to take some breaks though, but you could feasibly drive it in one day.
Yeah, I will say, like, I'm fully aware that, like, how I do road trips is, like, deeply not smart, because I'm just like, I'm going to do 10 hours with minimal stops. Because
I'm done after just a couple of hours. I mean, I can do long trips if I'm like switching off with other people, but by myself, no.
See, I'm in a position where I just got my international driver's permit. Got it like a couple of days ago, because I have to drive in New Zealand because the public transportation is like not great if you want to like go to places where we want to go and actually like be in control of the schedule. Like it's very like limited, like how well you can like get to places. So I have to drive, and the person I'm going to the trip with is like they don't have a driver's license, so they're gonna be a passenger princess basically. And I have committed to fully being like, okay, we're gonna take all the breaks in the world. Like if I start to get anxious driving on the wrong side of the road, I will pull over and have a break.
Absolutely. Also, it's New Zealand. I bet there are like scenic outlook stops like every couple of miles.
Yeah.
So.
I should hope so.
I will say, like, for Seattle Worldcon, if we are doing like adventures outside of the city, I'm totally fine like being the driver. Because I like weirdly like driving long trips. Like it's just very soothing. You just put on cruise control, you have an audiobook, you periodically yell at the cats in the back to shut up.
Oh, one thing that I will be really grateful for is the automatic gears. I'm gonna be like putting automatic gears and figuring out how to put the like what's the word, automated speed limit thing.
Oh, cruise control.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's what it's called. Okay.
Cruise control is like, I once drove from Nova Scotia to Boston and then to Smith, but I did that in 2 days. And I literally don't know how I did it without cruise control, but I had a manual, so I didn't have cruise control. It was like an older manual.
If you
Yeah,
don't have
the
cruise
first
control,
thing
like your leg gets really sore.
Yeah.
the first thing I was just like, yeah, I'm not. I like manual is not for me. Like first of all, I haven't driven a car in about a year, like regularly. And a year ago, I was driving like semi-regularly, and it was an automated like gear vehicle. And then I tried a couple of months ago to drive my mom's car, which is manual, and oh boy, like the story of that trip goes on to like the family legacies. Like she has been telling it to like all of the relatives who have been willing to listen how scared she was. Because I had I had the like basic understanding of, okay, you push the clutch down when you change the gears, but then like I had no recollection of how you actually like work the stick, because you don't have to work the stick in an automated vehicle. You just push drive or reverse and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might, because I learned to drive on a manual, so it might take me a while to like reacquaint myself with it, but I'm sure like as long as I'm driving something where the owner doesn't mind me like accidentally grinding the gears a little bit while I'm readjusting.
One thing I will say is that even though the States is the same side of traffic as Finland, I will not be comfortable driving in the States.
Don't just.
I have visited now 2 states of the 50 whatever, and let's just say your driving culture, at least in those states, has wounded me.
Also,
I'm
you've
scared.
been in places where legitimately the traffic is bad in like big cities and stuff.
Yeah, like
but
Sam was
yes, driving in the US.
Here's the thing, like
nuts.
I know people shit on California drivers, but like I understand, and it might just because I grew up driving California. Like I understand California drivers. Like they will do whatever the fuck it takes to get where they're going, and as long as you use your turn signals, as long as the slow cars are in the right lane, like you're gonna be fine.
Can we agree though that drivers in Tennessee are the worst?
I've never driven in Tennessee, so
I've not been to Tennessee, so I wouldn't know.
We have our first kid cameo.
But I will say that the one thing that I'm placing all my bets on is that New Zealand has approximately the same amount of inhabitants as Finland has. So and it's pretty rural. So I'm hoping that a lot of the driving, especially because we're going to be city to city, and I'm not planning on driving in the actual towns as much. I will avoid it if I can. If the traffic is going to be any like similar to Finland, it will mean that there's less cars. So that makes me less anxious about driving. But I'm still anxious. Like I've been having nightmares about the whole thing because my brain is like working overtime, trying to like predict how it's gonna be without actual data on how it's actually gonna be. So it's basically just like me catastrophizing things. But when I actually get there, it's probably gonna be easier because then I actually have like, okay, this is how it will look like.
Yep.
But I did promise people that I will post on Instagram so that they will know that I am, in fact, alive.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Ron. Ron, I don't even know what fifth gear is. What do you use fifth gear for?
When you want to go really fast.
Yeah.
What?
When you want to go like 120 kilometers an hour on the motorway, then you have to be on fifth gear.
Lord, that sounds very fast.
That's like 60 some odd.
What?
Yeah, 60 some odd miles.
Wait, so it isn't actually that fast?
Yeah, no. But that's the standard speed limit for Finnish motorway is 120. You're not allowed to go faster than that. But people do go 100 and 40 or something, because one time I was like, we were coming from a convention with my friends, and my friend was driving, and he was driving way past the 120 speed limit, and people were passing him, and we were just like, if the
That's so
the cops
weird.
came here, like all of these people would be fined so hard for
Yeah,
like
so I don't know what
endangerment of traffic.
I don't know what the leeway in Finland is, but on the high, like on back roads on highway, it's normally like 10 miles an hour over, unless it's the end of the month and the cops need to get their quota in, you're normally fine.
And also if you don't have out-of-state license plates, because if you're out of state, they're gonna nab you.
Wait,
Yeah,
cops
fortunately, I
have a
didn't hit that
quota?
issue in California with my Oregon license plates, but
Like
Yes,
cops have a
quotas are
quota
thing.
for fines? I don't
Yeah.
think that's a thing here. Like, is their salary dependent on how many people they fine?
so it's technically not legal as far as I know, but the quota is basically the cops are expected to issue a certain number of tickets a month. And so at the end of the month, it's just kind of, you tend to drive, if you don't want a ticket, drive a little bit more slowly, because there's a good chance a cop needs to make their quota.
Mhm.
What the? That seems.
Yeah, US policing culture sucks. I realized
I mean, Finland policing culture isn't much better, but at least we don't have that.
I realized we're like 20 minutes in and we never did introductions. We just kind of like.
We just talked about driving.
Other.
Welcome
Anyway,
to Stitch and
hi, my
Bitch,
name's
where we
Anna.
talk
My
about
channel-
driving.
My channel is Bookish Die. I have not posted anything in a while. I do have stuff I should be editing and posting. I mostly read science fiction and fantasy. And I'm starting a scarf, and I'm trying to figure out how to alternate colors when there's an I-cord edge. Well, because like I have, I think they're similar. It's kind of hard to see.
I just realized I don't know how to do that either.
Yeah, my problem is I'm using Malabrigo yarn, and they're like just different enough where like it would be very obvious like where one skein ends and the other one continues.
What's your stitch pattern though?
It's
I can sort of see it.
I'll send it to you over our Discord, but
I like Joe's comment of like, this is the Drive and Bitch episode. Yes.
yes. Yeah, that's true, Ron. Sometimes it really depends like which jurisdiction you are.
Uh-huh.
So
this is what I don't understand about US policing. We just have the police. We don't have state officers or sheriffs or anything. We just have the police.
I don't know how any of it works either.
we have like police jurisdictions, but every single police like respond like their government. Like I guess you would call it federal, but they just work in different jurisdictions. But like essentially everyone is like just one. They're under one branch. They just work in different offices. But then again, also our population is like we are the size of one of your smallest states. So I don't think it's a comparison that is fair.
Probably not.
But it's still like my brain can't comprehend.
Are we doing introductions? Should I go next?
yeah, you should go next.
Okay, hi, my name is Rachel. My channel is Colonati. I'm not active on BookTube right now, except for Stitch and Bitch live shows, which is kind of BookTube. I am active over on Instagram this month because I am doing like advent calendar stuff with jigsaw puzzles and spinning. So if you want to know what I'm up to, check me out on Instagram. And I mostly read science fiction, fantasy, and nonfiction, though I haven't been reading that much this month.
Okay, so hey, I'm Reija. My channel is the Bookfinch. Also, same as Rachel, this year I have not been posting that much. due to reasons. My interests have been a little bit elsewhere, but I have been posting obviously my share of the Stitch and Bitches. Possibly in the new year. Let's see how it works out. I might come back a little bit because I might post some travel content, and next year obviously we're going to Glasgow, so that is also some content that like I will continue to intermittently post when I feel like it, but currently it's been like a little bit of a break this year. And I also read a lot of science fiction and fantasy, especially fantasy and manga and comics. Recently, I have been reading a lot of webtoons. So this time I will probably be talking about the webtoons I have been reading because a few of them ended. So yeah, that's me.
So since it sounds like we're not like doing, I mean, I will say I have been doing some reading, but I did finally read Spear, the book that you recommended for me, Rachel, and I loved it.
Yay, I'm so happy.
Was it the one that was nominated last year for Hugos?
I think it was nominated for a Nebula Award this year.
Yeah, it didn't get nominated for the Hugo.
Oh, okay. So Nebula.
I am not a huge fan of Arthurian retelling type stories. I think I burnt out on them at a very young age. But it is a retelling of, oh my god, what's the character's name? Percival's story. But it's gender flipped and it's very queer and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good. I listened to the audiobook.
Which reminds me, Nicola Griffith has a new book out.
Yeah, it was the one. She's like, I'm sorry. It was the one in the acknowledgments where she's like, I'm sorry, this isn't that book.
Yeah, but yes, Meanwood is out. It's on my Christmas wish list, so I might get a copy for Christmas. It is humongous as well. It's like, I swear, it's probably twice as long as Hild.
Oh.
But yeah, let's see, what else? I think that's like the main kind of standout book that I've read so far. It's mostly been just playing Mass Effect as like my comfort game, and then the whole James Somerton drama.
Oh, we can talk about that soon.
Yeah.
Let's get to what we're reading first and then...
Reading and crafting, I should say.
Yeah, the other thing I'm reading right now is I started The Snow Queen by Joan D. Vinge because this was one of the books that a friend recommended for me for that challenge. And she's chunky. She's like, it's almost 500 pages.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting.
Who is it by?
What?
Who is the author?
Joan D. Vinge. It was published in 1980 and won the Hugo that year, that year. So
I always really liked that cover art.
It's a beautiful cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like Michael Whelan. Just like he and Jodie Lee are like kind of two of my iconic SFF cover artists.
Mm-hmm. I mean, whenever I see Whelan's artwork, I think Dragon Riders of Pern.
My childhood.
Yeah. Just iconic. Well, I can talk about what I'm making.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get to the end of my row. I suddenly decided this very late last night that I was going to attempt again making some sort of sweater or coat for my dog because she insists on being outside in the absolutely frigid temperatures, and I'm always forgetting to put her rather oversized coat on her. Oh. So I'm knitting this one flat, which is why it doesn't look like a dog coat, but it's meant to be folded and little hole for her her collar. And I'm actually almost done. I have a couple more inches to knit to get down to her butt. And then I gotta put it on her and figure out, I'm gonna put some little straps like at her neck and across her belly and see if it'll stay on. I was trying to knit an actual sweater, but I can never get it over her head and over her chest area. She does not like getting her legs put through arms of sweaters, so we're trying this instead.
Poor baby.
See,
Yeah,
I'm always like looking at these different like outfits you can make for your cats and stuff, and then I realize that Hermes gets like if I try to pick him up, he panics, and he's like a skunk. He releases odors.
Wait, is he a panic farter?
Yeah, he is a panic farter, and not only like I'm not going into details. It's kind of gross, but like it's like he panics. You can't pick him up.
Well,
So usually I just let him come to me, and I try to avoid picking him up as much as possible. I just gently guide him, for example, towards the carrier. Sometimes I've had to pick him up, but nowadays I've realized that I have to wear gloves because he's a messy boy.
can you like bribe him with treats to get in the carrier?
No. Like if
he's smart for that.
he's too anxious, he doesn't really like.
You got, and sorry, this is going to be a little gross. So apologies for whoever's watching. You might want to ask the vet about expressing his anal glands.
Oh, we do. And I have like I have to do that every like month or so, because it's like he has an overactive gland, I think.
He's an overactive butt.
Apparently it's a thing that affects like a significant number of tomcats. Not like female cats, but tomcats. I don't know why, but it's also like something that apparently like exists in feral cat populations more than like, because he's from a feral cat population of like originally before he got captured and sheltered and I adopted him. So it's like a thing that it happens when a cat has gone through like the puberty of like when the formative time of the like growing up cycle have been like in wilderness. They develop these kinds of like things that like fully domesticated house cats that have been house cats from birth like don't exhibit. So that was a fun thing to learn, because none of my previous cats has done that except for Mosfet, and he was also from a feral cat population, so that tracks.
They're so weird. I love them.
Yeah, it's interesting to say the least. But yeah, I am currently finally continuing once again on the dreaded jumper that I will not be finishing probably this winter. Is like definitely not finishing this before New Zealand. I'm still in the ribbing phase.
We can get it done in the winter though. When you get back from your extravagant adventures, we're gonna have some Netflix time, and I'll be like, hey,
yes, I definitely, I'm taking this with me when I go visit my mom, so then I can get a lot of it done, because my mom is like a ferocious knitter. Like she's constantly knitting. She can't watch TV without knitting something. So the peer pressure will probably help me get at least like this much done.
She will motivate you.
Yes.
I have to get the scarf done before Christmas, since it is a Christmas present.
Also, I have been reading webtoons. So Semantic Error finished. It is now over.
Aww.
There's like the season 3 was like the final season, and I'm sad. It ended really well, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I wanted more. I wanted more of these characters like being domestic specifically. I'm hoping there's gonna be some bonus chapters or something that will just be like little snippets of like their domestic life. But overall, like that has been one of the best like boys love titles that I've read. Like, first of all, it like clear communications of consent, clear like understanding that some of the behaviors that the characters exhibit are like toxic and they are addressed. It actually like tackles like the attitudes of like what being queer in like Korean society is like, and like addresses like sometimes it feels a little bit educational on that front, because it feels like, okay, this is targeted towards a Korean audience.
Mhm.
So it's clear that it's trying to kind of like, let's be in solidarity with the gays. Here are some stats that you need to understand so you can empathize with people who are like not you, but like it was so good, like so wholesome. And also I like that, like I like that the main character, he's like, it's never explicitly said that he's autistic, but he's like clearly coded as autistic.
Mhm.
And it's so weird, like for like, because he is very like by the book, by the rules, and that never changes. But it's interesting how it kind of gets developed, like how his attraction to the other like main character is expressed, and how he's like completely like out of touch with like, I don't even know how to comprehend or like process what I'm feeling right now, because this was never in the cards for me. What is this? How am I gonna do? So he just runs away from situations, sometimes like fully avoidant, and there are like scenes where they chase each other because the other guy's like, oh no, we're not gonna run away, we're actually gonna talk about this thing. And I was just like, this is relatable, I have literally done that. But yes, that's been the main thing that I have been reading, just finishing Semantic Error. And then Betrayal of Dignity has been another webtoon that I have been reading, which is mostly a guilty pleasure, because if you look at just the faces of the characters, it's fine. But when you start to ponder a little bit on the anatomy of the characters, there are some discrepancies. Like, for example, the main character's legs are as tall as the female lead.
What?
What?
Yeah, the main
What?
character, the main male leads, that like the male lead's legs are as long as the female lead is tall. And they
No.
have a height difference of like yay much. So it
No.
looks ridiculous whenever they are in frame where they show the whole, like their entire full bodies. I just look at it and be like, that's not correct. That looks uncomfortable. But when it's just their faces and like from the shoulders up, it's very well drawn.
Okay.
And the plot is ridiculous also. It's like basically this political marriage, and the female lead is basically like kind of tricked into the marriage, and then finds out, like now it's at the point where she finds out why the guy actually married her. And there's gonna be like huge tension because like he did the shitty thing and like completely controlled everyone in her family and stuff like that in order to gain access to her and stuff, and it's gross. But at the same time, I'm like, it's a train wreck I can't look away from. I'm just waiting for the next chapter to figure out like, how is this gonna go? How is this still gonna be a love story? Because for now this is just awful. Like, I'm just waiting for the author to like, how is she gonna play it out in a way that we will still feel sympathetic to the guy, because right now I'm just like, yeah, just divorce the asshole.
Well, I hope the author pulls it off.
I have doubts, but I'm continuing to read it. But yes, that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah. So did we want to talk about the James Somerton thing, since Ray and I were
Let me
Ray
know
and I
what I'm reading first, just real quickly.
Oh, sorry. I
am going to finish this collection of CJ Cherry's stories this year. I have exactly 2 books that I have been meaning to read all year. This is one of them. The other one is entirely in Spanish.
Oh,
I'm
God.
going to finish them.
Sorry.
believe in you.
It wouldn't be a big deal, except that I haven't actually been reading that much this month. But anyway, I should be about a third of the way through it when I get done with my reading for today. So we're getting there. I have to say, I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of Cherry's short fiction. I've only ever read her novels before, and her style of writing is not my favorite thing in short stories.
Good to know.
I should also be starting what's the Mia P. Manansala's latest book, Murder
Oh,
in
the
Babylon or whatever.
Manon and Manslaughter or something.
Something, yeah. I ended up buying the audiobook because the wait list of the library was way too long. I was like, I've got a Libro FM credit. I'm going to use that. So I should be
I
starting.
haven't read it yet, but I have it checked out in Libby. I'm hoping that it will be one of my early vacation reads.
Yeah.
So are we ready?
Yes, go for
Yes.
it. Explain to me what
Which
the
one
heck
of
is
us
going on with
wants
this
to
person.
which one of us wants to do the TLDR?
I'll do the TLDR.
Okay, go for it.
So for folks who don't know, H Bomber Guy is a video essayist. He got his start in video games. He also does current events. He did one of my favorite takedowns of Sherlock. Sherlock sucks, and here's why. And he's correct.
I still rewatched the first season though.
I can't. Anyway, that cast burned a lot of goodwill when they were little bitches about Elementary. I wish all of them a very happy step on a D4. Anyway, so he has a habit of like going long periods between videos, dropping like a really long video and then disappearing again. So last Saturday, pretty late, he dropped a new video that was 4 hours long about plagiarism in YouTube. And the first half of the video is talking like about a few different plagiarists and like the different tricks that, or like the different ways they plagiarized and kind of how they were spotted. So he talks about a guy who is plagiarizing game reviews, who is working at IGN. He talks about Illuminati, or who is going through her own downfall, or like her own stuff, like aside from the plagiarism things. If you want more details, the YouTube channel Savvy Writes Books has a few videos about the Illuminati situation. Cinema Massacre, or like the Angry Video Game Nerd, and he was caught plagiarizing, or like his company was caught plagiarizing stuff for Monster Madness, where he like did 31 monster movies in 31 days during October. And then Internet Historian, that guy did a big video last year about Floyd Collins, who was trapped in a cave in Kentucky in the 1920s. And it turns out he was just reading a Mental Floss article about it. And so he was talking about like, this is how they were spotted. This is how they would like take down the videos to try and hide what they did, or like re-upload them with like new content. But like, it's worse because they were just plagiarizing and they aren't doing their own work. And then the last half of the video is him talking about how all of that is present in the work of James Somerton, a cis white gay from Canada, funnily enough from Halifax. Unfortunately, my sister does not know him because I wanted to get the chisme. I wanted to get the tea. Anyway, and it turns out that he was a serial plagiarist. Like,
at least over the course of 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, like
all of his work.
Over 20 of his 50 some odd videos were plagiarized. And that's just the stuff that they caught. Like, there's a good chance that he plagiarized stuff in other videos and they just didn't catch him. Oh my God. And like, there are a few like pretty egregious examples. So the first was he did this video called Evil Queens about Disney and like the queer community. And it turns out there was a book published in 2000 called Tinkerbells and Evil Queens.
I think we can actually link to the H. Bomber guy video. I will put it in the private chat if you want to link it to.
Yeah, and I will. Okay, buddy.
Because this is us citing sources. We're basically talking about the content in this video, this H. Bomber guy video, talking about James Somerton.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, like before we continue, like I have watched James Somerton's like content. I have been a subscriber to him, so this was actually quite a bit of a shock when I started seeing like first I saw the videos popping up about him, and I was just like, oh no, this is never good. It's never good when like suddenly your subscription page is like 4 video essays have done a piece on the same person. It's usually like, oh no, that's bad. And then he has since like unlisted at least all of his content. Like there's nothing on the channel anymore. Like if you go and watch, like seek James Somerton's channel out, it's empty. Like all of the community posts and everything has been purged.
Yeah, he's nuked all of his except for one of his old Twitter accounts, which I found.
What about his Patreon?
He nuked his Patreon.
Yeah, and he was making a lot of money on Patreon as well.
Whoa!
Like, I've never been a Patreon supporter of his, but he was making like in the thousands.
So he really just ghosted everybody, huh?
Yeah, and the thing is that like I first started to get a little sour on him because like obviously I understand like there's a responsibility for the audience as well to like not, you know, blindly believe everything that someone says. But at the same time, it's like, as H. Bomber guy in his video also said, that it's impossible to like to everyone to like go and seek out all of the sources of especially like if you're watching multiple people and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started to sour on his content was with the Attack on Titan video that he made, which was based because like Attack on Titan has been accused of specifically Japanese brand of fascism, like endorsing Japanese brand of fascism for a long time. And the thing is that Japanese fascism differs from like Western fascism. It's like very different. It's not it's not like there isn't usually a cult of personality attached to one single person because it's more community oriented, because the like culture is more like about community and like solidarity with like group solidarity as opposed to like individuality. So the brand of fascism that was in Japan in the like World War II era is different from the Western fascism. And he completely missed that point when he was basically like defending Attack on Titan and saying it was not in fact fascist, or it doesn't have like fascist undertones in the writing, and defending the author as well. So yeah. So that was kind of because like there are some pretty valid criticisms to have about Attack on Titan engaging in things like blood libel and also like Jewish stereotypes, and also whitewashing and kind of rebranding genocide, like kind of like it kind of has this undertone of, well, it was the Jewish people who were bad all along, kind of that thing. If you have watched or read Attack on Titan, you do see the vibes there. But yeah, that was the video where I started to sour on his content. But it still surprised me. This whole thing still surprised me.
Yeah, it was. So I've never seen his stuff, but I had seen a rebuttal of one of his videos on Tumblr. So one of his videos, I guess he was, I don't know which one he was talking about, but he was paraphrasing. I don't know if he was paraphrasing Fran Lebowitz or if he was plagiarizing her, but one of the things that she said was all the interesting gays died in the AIDS epidemic and only the boring gays live in that. And he was like, well, that's why they did, Marriage and Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And there's this queer butch trans artist on Tumblr, VA Spider, and they saw that and they were just like, I lived through this, what the fuck? And so they did this whole like rant with sources. He included his sources on the Tumblr post, just like breaking down, like why, marriage and the military were two of the things that the queer community was fighting for in like starting in the 90s and working through the early 2000s or like the early 2010s, because like with marriage, it's all the legal protections. Like, yes, you have the wedding and all, but it is for those who survived AIDS, it was 100% about the legal protections and making sure that like long-term partners wouldn't be suddenly kicked out and barred from their loved ones' hospital rooms, or they wouldn't lose their housing or their children. And with the military, like, unfortunately, in the US, the military is the way, like, it is seen as the way out of poverty for a lot of people. And it also, so like, there's that, and there's the fact that you could be during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, you could basically be hate crimed out of the military and lose all your benefits because you would have a dishonorable discharge. So anyway, so there was that, but there's a graphic that hbomberguy and his team did that kind of with one of Somerton's queer horror videos, just like showed how much he plagiarized and from how many people he plagiarized from.
Yeah.
And like the only non-plagiarized things that he did were like really misogynistic and anti-Asian.
Whoa.
Which is interesting. Like, this is actually like an interesting topic that's like going on a tangent, like, because like he does a fair bit, or he did a fair bit of anime content. And a lot of people are like, well, you can't be anti-Asian if you like anime, which is so far from the truth, because like a lot of the time, like you find these really like let's put it this way. For example, a lot of like white supremacists, like for example Attack on Titan, they usually don't like they usually they like completely remove the content of like, okay, I'm watching this anime series, and they remove it from the cultural context and the creative context of where the work is like. There's a whole lot of compartmentalizing going on there. And there's also this idea that there's a lot of flattening of like you only like the product of a certain culture, but you don't like the culture itself. Like there's a lot of that, and also fetishization of the culture, which in itself is also anti-Asian. Like you may think that fetishization is in and of itself is anti the group that you're fetishizing, because you're not seeing them as their full selves. You're just like focusing on the specific part that you find appealing to yourself.
Yeah. So there was like, anyway, so the video went up Saturday, and Somerton initially on his Patreon was like, someone has a vendetta against me. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, don't worry about it. We have things going on. Or like, we'll keep going. And then like 3 hours, like basically the runtime of the video, he posted an apology, basically like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm in a bad mental space. And then again, like Rhea said, he just nuked his entire online social media presence.
This like I completely, because here's the thing, I have been mostly offline for the better part of the week because work. So I came into this weekend and started seeing these videos, and like first time in like 4 days I opened up my computer and I was like, oh no. And then I started watching all of the things and I was like, oh no. So I completely missed all the apology things because everything had already been nuked. Like the purge had happened. I just came like I felt like I feel, yeah.
I hope somebody out there screenshotted everything though.
Oh, there probably were
Oh, the
people.
screenshots are live.
There probably are people who screenshotted all of this. Like, how could you not? It's like, okay, I see that this video by hbomberguy is live. Let's go see what the person accused of the things is doing and just print screen the heck out of everything. But yeah, it's an interesting video though, like a very, very thorough takedown.
Yeah, and one of the things that I appreciated was hbomberguy kind of talking about like what the impact of the plagiarism is, especially for what Somerton was doing, because a lot of the people he was plagiarizing are smaller queer creators.
Yes.
And so like Caitlin Byrne, she's a trans writer. She freelances a lot, and she had written it back in 2019, a piece about J.K. Rowling, and just kind of sounding the alarm on Rowling's turfiness before Rowling went completely mask off in 2020. And her piece was plagiarized, and she was talking about, she's like, I made $700 from this piece, and he was pulling in over around $170,000 a year with his Patreon. And that's not including like any ad revenues he was getting from YouTube, any sponsorships he was getting. Like, that is just Patreon.
Yeah. And even if you account for taxes, that's like still like a hell of a lot of money. That and as far as I know, the money was split between two people only.
Yeah.
Because his like creative team is essentially him and the co-writer, I should say. If they plagiarize like 90% of the content, it's like, how much is there? I guess the person who searches for the sources to plagiarize.
Yeah, well, the question is like, did his co-writer know? And so
how could they not know if so many of his videos?
If his co-writer specifically, he's not his video editor.
No, but.
Oh, so speaking of video editing, that was how hbomberguy got proof that Somerton had ripped off another YouTube creator, Alexander Avila, who's a trans mask creator. So Avila, he does longer, different video essays, but for a while he was doing a series of video essays like, are they gay? And he was doing like Merlin and Arthur from Merlin, Holmes and Watson from Sherlock.
Oh, I think I've seen some of those.
Yeah, and also I think the Teen Wolf piece, I don't know, I don't watch Teen Wolf. I know too much about it.
You're not missing much. The fandom is the most enjoyable part of Teen Wolf, and the fandom is not very enjoyable.
Anyway, I would not say the fandom's enjoyable. Just
exactly my point. Exactly. Having watched the show, the fandom is the most enjoyable part of the show. Do with that what you will.
Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so Somerton kind of got caught plagiarizing the Merlin stuff, and he was like, I guess he like told Avila, oh my god, that was just a one-time thing, I'm sorry, and re-uploaded, because it was like a video about queer baiting, I think, and it got re-uploaded without the Merlin stuff, but there were still mentions of it in the script because I guess Somerton just cut it out. But hbomberguy was like, some of the things were like with the Sherlock stuff just looked very similar to what Avila had been doing. And he was looking through Somerton's social media, and there was a picture of Somerton editing that essay, and the file name in the video editing software was the download of that video.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there was also another essay on Somerton that dropped a few hours after H Bomber Guy, because I guess H Bomber Guy had been talking about it with a few other video essayists, and so someone, Todd in the Shadows, who normally does music.
This one I haven't seen, but I know Todd in the Shadows. I used to watch him quite a bit when he did the like music like reviews.
Yeah, so he normally does music reviews, and he dropped a almost 2-hour video just essentially fact checking Somerton, because it turns out like when he wasn't plagiarizing, and he wasn't just being like weirdly misogynist for no reason, he was just making shit up.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so that was like another thing that happened.
I mean, how do like this is the thing, like you don't really like those are things that you don't come back from, I don't think. Like how can you?
People were speculating that, and I agree with them, that Somerton's going to rebrand, like come back and rebrand as like a conservative gay talking head.
Oh no. Oh no.
Ew.
That's gross.
Because like he burned, like all of his bridges in his initial community are burned, and I can't see him do, like, I don't think there's a way for him to atone and like repair the damage that he caused in a way that would include him coming back. Like, I think if he is going to atone and like,
well, first of all,
and make repentance, like part of that is he cannot come back as a video essayist with the goal of making money. Like the level of harm that he caused to other queer creators, I don't see that as a viable like path forward of atonement. So I think if he does come back, he is going to completely rebrand and go conservative.
There should also be like serious monetary compensation for all the people he ripped off, because like if you're profiting off of someone else's work, like there should be some compensation, like financial compensation to those people he plagiarized, and I don't see him doing that.
I mean, are
unless
any of
people
those people
sue
in a position to really lawyer up and
like it's
no,
like...
and one of the people he plagiarized for the Attack on Titan essay, Gita Jackson, wrote a piece on the site that she co-owns, basically saying like, stop asking me to sue James Somerton, and kind of laid out the reasons why. One is when she wrote the Attack on Titan piece, she was freelancing, and so Vice owns the copyright, and Vice is currently going bankrupt or is bankrupt. So like, I don't think Vice is in any position to sue over their copyright. And also it's just like, what would she gain from suing? So I'm gonna look, I'll drop it in the chat, because it's actually, I think it's a really good piece. Yeah. So that's the link I just put in is Gita Jackson's piece on it.
But yeah, so that was a nice thing to wake up to, essentially. What other stuff do we have other than the Goodreads Choice Awards? The long list thing is still not out, I guess.
Yeah.
Did they publish the voting stats at least?
They published the voting stats, but not the long list.
At this point, if they have the voting stats, how in the hell don't they have the, like, this is getting like sketchier and sketchier by the minute.
Yep.
Because what are they hiding? What faux pas has happened with the long list that they need to like stretch this out? Are they hoping that people forget that we usually get the long list?
They're not going to forget, because I mean, they're required to release the stats.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised, especially because it sounds like they were doing all of their number crunching and stuff during the convention at the very last moment. I believe that's probably true. And I think they probably just made mistakes. and they probably realized it too late and went, oh well, crap.
I think they made mistakes, but I also think given given how glitchy the nominating form was, I think there might have been issues there because like I had to email in my nominations because I was having so many issues accessing the form. I also am wondering, like, yeah, there was a lot that went wrong with nominating, and
definitely.
Kelsey, you're welcome. Kelsey, you are welcome to join us if for some Goodreads Choice Awards. You should have the StreamYard link if you want to jump in.
So is voting over on the Goodreads?
Yeah, it's over. They announced the winners.
I did not vote. I
voted, but I didn't read a lot of new releases this year, which is gonna fuck me over when it comes to the Hugos.
4.5 centimeters. Is this really supposed to be? Is this really supposed to be 8 centimeters? This rib.
All right.
I'm looking at the list of winners, and I'm like, I have read exactly 0 of these, but 2 of them are on my to-read list. Only 2 of them.
Work in ribbing until the ribbing measures 8 centimeters. So I still have half to go.
Let me see if I can screen share.
That would be helpful because I am also scrambling to find these lists.
Okay.
Obviously, the first thing before we talk about the Goodreads Choice Awards in any capacity, I feel like it needs to be stated that the Goodreads Choice Awards are a total sham. And, you know, they are not about the quality of the books. They do not disclose how they come up with those long lists. They are presumably meant for the purpose of Amazon selling more of these books for the holidays, which is why they do them before you know, the Christmas shopping rush, even though not all the books in the year have been released yet, which is ridiculous.
What?
Yeah.
And
okay, then.
They no longer have a round of voting where you can like vote new things onto the list by popular choice. They've gotten rid of that.
They also got rid of a bunch of categories this year.
And they got rid of a bunch of categories and added romantasy. Okay, the categories they got rid of were
children's middle grade,
and graphic novels.
They also got rid of poetry.
Oh,
why
yes,
would they get rid of graphic novels? Those are just getting more and more popular by the minute.
Why would they get rid of middle grade too?
Odd choices, to say the least.
All right. Well, I'm gonna start sharing my screen. So give me 1 sec. Share screen. Okay.
I can see your screen.
Cool. So here, I can't see all of you. So, and I can't see the chat either. So these are the best books. I will say for some of them, they are St. Martin's Press titles, and I will not be talking about them because of the influencer boycott. If you want more information, visit Readers for Accountability. So we're going to skip historical fiction. But yeah, let's look at fiction. So Yellowface won, which is not surprising to me. It won by a lot.
I have nothing to say about any of the non-speculative categories, so other people need to pipe up if you want to discuss it.
Yeah, I have nothing to say about...
Yellowface is the only one of these that I even knew about. So maybe that influences also the other Goodreads voters, that maybe Yellowface was the one that people had mostly read.
Yeah. I do want to talk about romance a bit because I think romance is one where the category, I think, is like truly open to a lot of legitimate criticism. So the category itself is ridiculously white. Like, I think Anna Huang
Yes.
is the only non-white author here. And these are all contemporary. There's no historical.
Are they all straight too? Like they're all hetero?
I think they're all straight as well.
Well,
This
that
is
does not
just
surprise.
very boring.
I've heard so many bad things. Mari Ness from My Name is Mari Ness read Pucking Around this summer, and she was suffering. She did a vlog for it, and it is very much worth watching, but she was suffering. Okay, so let's
All these
talk.
covers look the same. Is like
Ali Hazelwood
orange
is
the thing.
Ali Hazelwood has another tall, small romance.
I actually have Check and Mate on audiobook. I don't know if I'll read it though.
So I was talking with Renee yesterday, and her partner does chess, and so he picked up the book, and apparently the chess in that book is not very good.
Okay.
Wait, what?
He picked it up for the chess component.
The Ali Hazelwood book?
It's a YA book, so it'll probably show up when we get to YA. Okay,
Because fun fact, I used to do chess. I was in the chess club in high school, so that hurts me internally.
Yeah. Okay, so we have Romantasy.
I want to know, is it still basically like Raylo fic though?
I mean, probably. Ali Hazelwood does not have range. Although she's writing an Omegaverse, she has an Omegaverse novel coming out later this year.
No,
Early
that
next year.
might be even worse.
not Omega worse.
Hold on. Okay, we will come back to that after we go through Goodreads.
I have a personal take on the romantasy category's existence and its branding as such. First of all, like, I am fine with there being an extra category. I think if there are enough fantasy titles to fill both, go for it, romantasy or hard out. However, I am personally like a little miffed that it's romantasy and not fantasy and science fiction romance, the way they have like the young adult category and the young adult fantasy and science fiction category. Just because like it does leave out the possibility of science fiction titles being nominated in this category. So I don't like that. And also, having not read any of these books, I am struggling to understand how they are defining this new genre that they've whipped up from.
So I have not. The only one I've read is Fourth Wing.
I have a theory based on absolutely no evidence, which is
go ahead and I'll do my theory after you.
They invented this category because they knew Fourth Wing would win and they would make buku bucks.
I think that's part of it. My other feeling is that they were just tired of people complaining about Sarah J. Maas winning fantasy and didn't want to deal with that with Fourth Wing.
Right.
I would also say that there's a larger resurgence of specifically fantasy and science fiction, like romance content over on TikTok. Like there are so many TikTok and Instagram content creators which have branded themselves specifically and like majority as romance fantasy readers outside of any other genre. So that's like a subgenre that has currently high traction over on TikTok, which is moving sales. It's like literally moving units off the shelves. So I think that is why it is its own separate category this year.
But I just want to say, like, a bunch of these books I had never heard of, which is fine. I guess that would be normal. I wouldn't expect to hear most of them. But some of them, like, from what I'd seen of them, I wasn't even aware of them being like primarily romance novels. Like I'd heard about the Jasad Air, I think, but like
From what I've heard, that should not have been in Romantasy.
I had not seen that described as primarily a romance novel, right?
There's also like what constitutes a romantasy? Like for example, last year, A Taste of Golden Iron. Would that be counted as a romantasy because it has a major romantic component, but it's a political intrigue? What
Yeah, I think-
what even constitutes it? Or the Foz Meadows book,
Which
The
was
Strange and
also,
Stubborn
like,
Endurance.
political and court intrigue.
Yeah. Like what
Yeah.
what are the constraints of this genre?
So I haven't read either of those books, but for me, I think using two books I have read that kind of highlight romantic fantasy versus a fantasy romance. So a romantic fantasy for me is C.L. Polk's The Kingston Cycle. While there is like a very strong romantic element, the romance isn't the key thing. It's not just about the various characters in each of the three books falling in love. Like there's always that really strong political intrigue, that type of fantasy. Whereas with A Marvelous Light by Freya Marsky, that for me is more of a romance, like a fantasy romance. Like romance.
I will say I agree with you completely, and I've also seen like a lot of people try to sort of make the same distinction, but almost every content creator I've seen try to make this same distinction with the same argument puts different books on either side of the divide. Because I think to some extent, like the same people, like different people can read the same books that have like both of a fantasy magic politics plot and a strong romance. And depending on which one of those in that book speaks more to you, you're going to come away with like a slightly different impression of whether the book was primarily a fantasy or primarily a romance. And like, just because of how many times I've seen people put the same books on either side of that divide while making essentially the same argument about why.
And that is why this category makes no sense to me. Just
I hesitate to really feel like the distinction is super meaningful unless the author or the publisher are heavily marketing something as a romance.
Yeah,
Like,
I do think for a lot of them, a lot of these, they were being marketed as romantasy, like Fourth Wing, 100,
Yeah.
like Fourth Wing and Assistant to the Villain, their entire imprint is romantasy.
right.
The Jasad Air is the one that confuses me. I've heard the Foxglove King could go either way. I think most of the other ones are self-pubbed and they're marketed as romantasy. This one is pro-pub from Tor, with their new romance imprint, but they've marketed it as romantasy. They've marketed Hurricane Wars as romantasy.
I mean, I think at this point, a lot of the stuff that I've read that I would say is romance fantasy came out before romantasy was identified as this big trend. So now you have things that are being written and marketed and published as romantasy, whereas before it would have been left up to the reader's interpretation.
Yeah.
I am reading 2 books right now that came out this year that if I were trying to identify like what's a romantic fantasy novel that came out this year, I might point at both of these books. One of them is Bitter Medicine by Mia Tsai, and the other one is the sequel to A Strange and Stubborn Endurance, All the Hidden
I
Paths.
want to read that, even though
just
I
came
have
out.
feelings about A Strange and Stubborn Endurance.
And obviously neither of these books were nominated in the Goodreads Choice Awards in either category.
Because we can't have the queers.
Well, also,
Bitter Medicine was from a
those
small
ones
press.
came out late in the year. It might have come out before the shortlist was even done.
And yeah, well, all the Hidden Paths just came out on Tuesday. So with
Okay,
that,
yeah, then that way
huge
it
marketing behind it.
wouldn't have been eligible. I think the cutoff was the 7th or the 4th. I think it was the 14th.
Okay. But like just in terms of what's been published recently that I've been reading that I would categorize as a fantasy romance. And my impression of this list of books is that this list of books is not necessarily, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I think that what's actually out there in terms of fantasy romance is much more genre diverse in terms of like, Bitter Medicine being a contemporary urban fantasy, All the Hidden Paths being something that's queer focused. Like there's and I look at this list and I see a lot of things where my impression of them that I've gotten, aside from like Assistant to the Villain, which is I think is a superhero thing, is that these are all sort of epic fantasies in a mold. And I think that's kind of what the idea of romantasy has come to mean somehow, and I'm a little bit perplexed by it. That's all. That I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Just I mean, looking at the cover designs, to me they look like trying to be epic fantasy, but also I would guess that many of these are sexy YA fantasy.
Okay, so I would not say they're YA fantasy because I think YA fantasy, like if we're talking pacing, typically yes, YA fantasy does tend to be faster paced, but then you also have things like Tasks of the Road and In the Serpent's Wake that are not that. Like I think for me it's really frustrating when people, and this is like the reason I want to like just have a talk with the Red Tower marketing team, just to chat. I hate the whole thing YA but sexy, and I'm gonna stop sharing my screen because I cannot see you guys right now and it's bugging me. But the thing that really bugs me is if you're saying YA but sexy, to me it reads you want to read barely legal like teenagers having sex, which is like really gross to me. Like YA but sexy has the same energy as barely legal, and I need the romantasy girlies. I need Red Tower to be really fucking real with me right now about that because it is so gross to me. The other thing too is people will say, oh, it reads YA, but like I haven't read most of this, but I read Fourth Wing, and I have read so many better YA books than that. Fourth Wing, yeah, if you're going for pacing, sure, it is similar to YA, but it is more new adult. Like they can say new adult, but like fantasy new adult, and I would be more okay with it. Like I would still have issues in that I don't think new adult translate as neatly to fantasy as it does to contemporary romance.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I also deeply hate this. I hate that they're equating YA books with poor editing, because I've also read some really fucking poorly edited adult books.
Can we also just like here's the thing, like for example, all of those books on the list, when we're talking about the exclusion of like people of color and queer voices from the list, I would say the big majority of book talk content tends to veer towards white.
Oh,
usually white, able-bodied, majority women, and a big proportion of white women who are basically driving the discussion on like what books get popular. That's one thing. And another thing about the like YA but sexy thing is that these are like 20 to 30 something women driving the conversation, and they are dictating the tastes of YA right now. It's not actual teens and like 15 to 18 year olds or even 20, like it's not young adults who are dictating the trends of what's like what YA as a genre or as a demographic should be like. It's 30-something women.
On
Yeah, and,
TikTok.
Like used to be on YouTube and blogs, but now on TikTok, because TikTok has wider reach. It's bite-sized content, easily consumable.
Yeah,
Highly addictive algorithm. The algorithm gets like tailor-made to you, so you see the same types of voices over and over and over again. You see the same types of books over and over again from different flavors of the same vanilla.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is kind of going off of your point, Rhea, about tastes of adult women influencing YA. There was a thing earlier this year where Sourcebooks Fire, their YA imprint, was doing an art giveaway for a YA fantasy co-written by Beth Ravis and Sarah Rosh, I think. And it was a not safe for work print, and they were rightfully called out. It's like, hey, this is a book for teens. Why are you doing a not safe for work print that's designed to titillate the viewer? And like, I don't want to say like there can't be sex in YA. Like, that's not my argument, because I've read some books where there like sex is a component, but it's done in a way that isn't to excite the reader. Like, oh God, I think it was Sal Martinez in The Moonlit Beginning of Everything. Like, the character feeling comfortable enough and healed enough from past trauma to have sex with her boyfriend is a major component, but it's not on screen. Like, you're told it happened, but it was done in a way that was age appropriate for teenagers.
So what we're saying is that a lot of these things are basically being written and pitched as like
What?
porn for teens. Because that's bad.
Let's put it this way. As a teen, I watched a lot of adult content that was definitely not like designated to my demographic, but but I don't necessarily agree that I should have been exposed to that. I do think that kids generally seek it out if they want to seek it out, because it's forbidden.
Right.
It's like
Forbidden, yeah, because
but it's like you
shouldn't be
necessarily
advertised
shouldn't
to
make it
them.
mainstream.
Yeah, it shouldn't be
Yeah.
advertised to them by adults.
Yeah, and I think for me the difference is, what is the purpose of the sex scene? So is it designed to titillate, like make the reader excited? Then put it in the adult book. If it's just like part of the character's journey, or if it's just something the character kind of like, again, I'm going back to that one. I'm thinking of The Aftermath or The Afterword by E.K. Johnston, which again does have the characters having sex, but nothing explicit. Like, it's done.
I think it's not even just about like whether it's explicit or on the page. It's about what you're trying to convey to younger readers about sex, because that's something that teenagers are naturally interested in looking for information on. And are you introducing that material to them in a way that is appropriate for young people who are curious about a thing and should be introduced to it in a healthy way?
Yeah.
So I read, when I was a teen, I read this book called Junk. It's basically about two teenagers who run away from home and end up becoming heroin addicts. And this was a young adult book. And
was it an Alan Hopkins book?
I think so. I'm not sure, but like Junk isn't. But I liked that book back in the day. And that book, the characters explicitly have a sexual relationship that is never showed on page, but you are inferred that they have in fact a sexual relationship, because one of them eventually gets pregnant because of it, and that's a major component in the story. But you're never shown scenes where they actually have a sex act together.
Mm-hmm.
But it is like explicit, like you as a reader can infer the details of their relationship, because it's more about like they explore the feelings that they have regarding this other person and how they look at them and how they view them, but it's never actually like explicitly, there's never a scene where they are together in that way, aside from like a kiss or something.
Anyway, let's go back to talking about the other categories. I'm kind of done talking about romantasy for a bit.
TLDR, romantasy as a genre makes no sense. Moving on.
I refuse to call it a genre. It's a marketing category of not great books right now.
All right, so going back, let's look at fantasy. All right, so the winner is Leigh Bardugo's Hellbent. Runner-up is Tress of the Emerald Sea. And then, like, the next 4 books were all fairly close together. I was actually a little surprised that Cassandra Clare ended up so far down.
I'm surprised that
nothing about this one though. Like I knew that it existed, but I've not heard anything about the new Cassandra Clare book.
I'm surprised that Travis Baldry didn't make it higher on the list.
Or
Brandon Sanderson, actually.
So I'm not surprised about Baldry because I mean I am the designated Legends and Lattes hater in this group, but from the people from what I've heard from people who liked Legends and Lattes, they haven't liked Bone Shops and Bone Dust as much.
I've seen reviews that say it's a bit more action than cozy vibes, which is, you know, the opposite of Legends of Lattes. Also,
and the
it came
opposite
out
of what
later.
people liked.
Yeah.
It came out in November, which means not a lot of people may have read it and had an opinion.
Also, Shannon Chakraborty being so far down the list also surprises me.
My pick came in 4th, so I'm moderately happy.
I can't remember. I think I voted for Venko because, like, which does make me sad it was last. Like, I didn't love Venko as much as some other people did, but I liked it. I thought it was like a good contemporary fantasy.
I'm happy that Witch King at least got some votes.
I should read it.
Even there, it feels like it's niche enough that and it's not like some of these other titles. So,
you know what, Rachel? I've been considering that I should reread the entire Raksura books of the Raksura series. Because that's my feel-good Martha Wells. For everyone else, it seems to be Murderbot. For me, it's like the Raksura is like my feel-good Martha Wells. I should reread those again.
I have read the first 2 Raksura books, and like I genuinely felt like they were feel good. Like I was so happy while reading them. It was just,
especially later on in the series, they also get increasingly violent.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I named my computer after a character in those books.
I don't think I really have too much to say about this. I will say it's a little interesting that all the Greek retellings I feel like the Greek retellings split their own votes.
I definitely see that trend. You can just tell from the cover art, Stoneblind, Clytemnestra, Atalanta. This is giving Circe vibes here.
Yeah.
Any other comments about the fantasy?
I guess
I'm surprised that Brandon Sanderson doesn't have more because of how many books did he come out with?
Is Tress
you
of the
had
Emerald
asked me to guess what book would win this category, I would have said Tress of the Emerald Sea. I'm a little bit surprised it came second to Hellbent, just as I feel like I haven't seen as much about Hellbent.
Is Tress of the Emerald one of the Kickstarter books?
Yes.
Yes.
That might be the reason, like, because not all of his fans back the Kickstarter.
But it's been out in
it.
traditional published release for a while now.
That's the Tor cover.
Okay.
But if enough of his books came out this year, that might have kind of split the votes.
Well, how many was Trust the only one even nominated? there wasn't another one nominated, was there? So all of his fans had one of them to vote for.
Yes.
Unless there was a second one nominated that I'm blanking on.
I
No.
keep forgetting that the Goodreads awards don't work like Hugo's, where you first nominate
No, because Goodreads
books to.
picked them all, and they picked the most popular one of the Sandersons that came out this year. So I thought it would win. So I guess the Leigh Bardugo fandom for Hellbent is stronger than I thought it was.
The thing that, like, I have heard no one talk about, like, a small minority have talked about. Like, I heard so much for the first book in the series, but I have not heard like so much good things about the second books. Like the second book seems like it was just fine, I guess. So I'm surprised that it had enough traction to win, unless it's just that people were like, Leigh Bardugo, I'm just gonna vote.
Are folks okay with me moving to science fiction?
Yeah.
Let's move on. Science fiction was a perplexing list of books.
Yeah,
Is In the Lives of Puppets even a science fiction?
yes,
I think it is.
I think.
I think
I don't
it's
know.
about
I'm not
robots.
reading TJ Klune.
I think the puppets are robots. But I
Okay.
haven't read it, and I'm not going to probably.
Yeah.
But there were quite a lot of books on this list that I had not heard of at all that might have been like published as general fiction titles as opposed to like from SFF publishers.
Yeah, like Chain Gang All Stars, which I haven't read, but I've heard amazing things about. I think is more lit, or like speculative lit.
Yeah.
I've heard really good things about The Deep Sky.
I have that out from the library right now. I've been meaning to try it. Translation State by Anne Leckie is one of my kind of like disappointments of the year, I have to say.
Oh.
And I DNF'd Some Desperate Glory, which made me very sad because I loved her like Green Man duology.
Oh, that is a book that I want to read. The thing is, the John Scalzi book has an annoyingly fantastic cover. Like, I do not want to read that book, but for that cover,
So I have
tempted.
read it. I have read most of it in a day, and so I like Scalzi's brand of fluffy pop song books. I read them as palate cleansers. I actually super enjoyed Kaiju Preservation Society. Starter Villain as a book kind of went through my eyeballs and out the back of my head, and I can tell you nothing about it now. It has no memorable aspects. I'm sorry, even the cats are not super memorable.
The cover is just like speaking to me.
It's got a good cover.
Yes.
One book on this list that I think I particularly am curious about. The book on this list I'm most curious about is the Jinbot of Shantyport, and I don't know that I know anyone who's read it yet. I'm kind of waiting to hear what other people think, but I think I would like to read that one.
I know multiple people who want to read it, including myself, but I haven't heard much about it from people who have yet.
Right. Any other thoughts? I will say my one thing is, like, I am annoyed that TJ Klune won, but I'm also glad that Pierce Brown didn't win. So that's my thought.
I agree
We
with
can't win
Elise.
them all.
I agree with Elise in the comments that I'm surprised that the Lightbringer didn't win it. I mean, all I heard from what little of stuff I follow right now is like, oh God, everyone's freaking out about Lightbringer, and it did not win.
No, I'm fine with that. All right,
What's next?
do people want to talk about horror, or do we want to go over to YA?
I have no idea what's in horror this year.
All right, so YA SFF. We're not talking about the winner because it is a Wednesday Books book, but I am not shocked. I will say I have not read any of these books.
don't
Neither have
know.
I. I'm embarrassed to admit that I had A Study in Drowning out from the library, but I didn't get to it before it was due back, and I had to return it unread.
So I'm gonna stop sharing for a bit because I do want to see people's faces. Because I missed your faces.
All of the covers look like the romantasy category too, like the same fonts and everything.
So yeah, none of those just sounded super interesting. Well, some of them did
Well,
sound interesting to me,
I had talked about this on a previous live stream not that long ago, that I felt like I hadn't seen buzz for like really exciting YA SFF releases this year. Like there was very little that I wanted to read that I had seen reviewed. And I was wondering, like, was this just like a super bummer year for YA SFF? And is that a greater trend? What's going on here?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like for me, part of it is I've been more missed than hit with YA fantasy lately. So it's not something I'm like actively seeking out or like actively buying. So I'm not really paying attention to like what's new. I do follow Alex Brown on Blue Sky though, and they're kind of like my go-to for like what is coming out, because they're a high school librarian, and so they always are just kind of like keeping up to date, and they do write-ups and tour about it. So they're just kind of like, I'm probably just going to check out their various columns and be like, okay, Alex Brown, what do you recommend that I should potentially read for the Lodestar?
Wait, did Naomi Novik have anything that came out this year?
No.
No, the evil has been conquered. She cannot be nominated for the Lodestar next year.
We might
I will
actually be able to
say
talk
that
about
was
something else for that
so
category.
that she didn't win the Lodestar for the Golden Enclaves. Like, I saw Nadia
Yes.
4-4, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
we did it, kids. We did it.
Unless we get the stats. No, the voting stats came in, so
Yeah, she was second.
probably. Okay,
She
good.
was
Good.
second.
She was second. I have no faith in humanity at this point.
So
I will confess to being like moderately incapable of reading any useful information in the voting stats, purely because I'm not good enough at math to understand how the ranked choice calculations work, and that's how they're presented.
I don't know what any of it means either.
So I just have to trust other people's analysis
Yeah, I
know what that
of the
looks
voting
like.
stats.
I usually trust other people who are smarter in math than me to kind of decipher the necessary statistics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because like the ranked voting flies over my head at times. It was much easier, I think, when the BookTube SFF awards were a thing, and because Elizabeth was like compiling and explaining all of how that worked. So that back then I had a much more clearer understanding of how it worked, and now that DLC has been uninstalled from my brain.
Do I dare ask what happened to the BookTube SFF Awards? Is this something that everyone knows what happened except me?
It just
No
fizzled
clue.
out.
No
There-
clue.
There was like not like people just weren't.
Weren't
I think after Elizabeth signed off on like or signed out as doing the admin, the next person responsible for doing the admin probably was a little overwhelmed, and then there was no interest in like the older judges continuing to like host it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, a lot of the original judges left
Yeah.
in like 1 or 2 years, and so it was...
Yes, and then there was like
the
this
pandemic.
there was also like these tryouts of like rebranding it a little bit so that they could be more inclusive, the awards, and that frustrated people because it like didn't yield the same results. Like, for example, the awards continued to be less inclusive than a lot of the newer hosts wanted. So it just fizzled out. There was little to no drama about it. People just lost interest in hosting them because it like
I
requires a lot of work.
I don't miss the awards. I miss having the list of Babbel's topics to make videos on every year, because those are generally like good video topics, and I got good engagement on those videos.
Mhm. I don't know.
Right. That's kind of all I felt like talking about with Goodreads choice.
Do we want to talk about media?
If you're going to talk about media, I'm going to duck back out
Okay, thank you for joining us for a bit, Kelsey.
for a little bit. Okay, see you next month. Bye.
I will say we're also like close to time, and so maybe instead of media, we talk about like some books that we're looking forward to next year. Since it's 12:40.
Yes.
Or
I'm not sure I
just
have
include
anything.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I have anything except for Delicious in Dungeon and Witch Hat Atelier, which have new volumes designated to launch next year.
I have some stuff coming out next year that I'm looking forward to. Let me get my Goodreads loading.
I am all for wrapping up maybe a little bit early because I literally need to go to the library before it closes today so I can get Delicious in Dungeon Volume 2. Because my interlibrary loan just came in, so
Got you.
I mean, I'm also fine with ending early. So
I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I'm like really looking forward to. I've got some new releases from November and December that I really want to get to, and I'm just desperately hoping I get copies for Christmas because that's what I want to read right now.
I think for me, let's see. So Let Them Burn by Camila Cole is coming out in January. It's a YA fantasy with dragons. And so it's like decolonial YA fantasy. So I'm hoping that it's a dragon fantasy that I like. Yes, I am. I haven't read Lee Mandello, so I don't know his stuff, and I'm also looking forward to the Malka Older novella. It's the sequel to the one that she published this year, whose name I'm blanking on.
Mimicking of Known Successes, which I've started but have not finished. I need to get.
I'm just essentially playing catch up next year for all this year's releases that I have ignored.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, and the other January release I'm looking forward to is Feybound by Sarah El-Arifi. It is a romantasy, but it is by a Black author. Oh. And there's one of the sisters is queer, so we're already starting off on a stronger foot. And I also liked, I haven't read the sequel yet, but I really liked The Final Strife from her. So I'm hoping that this is a romantasy that I'll like.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Also, Ursula Vernon's latest book, Paladin's Faith, is out. It dropped a couple of days ago. So,
oh my god! Speaking of the Paladin books, hold on, I'll be right back. Fox and Wit put out a special edition of Paladin's Grace.
Ooh,
so, like,
that's so cool.
It doesn't really have any customizations, but the cover itself is very pretty.
That's so cool. Oh, by the way, I would be very happy to like get recommendations from people for preferably easily digestible, cozy, possibly romantic stories that I can put on my Kobo for 2 9-hour flights that I'm going to be on in the next couple of weeks. So if you have any recommendations for like some like feel good reads, I will be happy to get those.
I've heard you can't spell treason without T is good.
Oh.
Cozy queer fantasy romance.
I wouldn't say it's like super feel good, but it is happily ever after. The two KJ Charles historical fiction.
Yeah, I've been meaning to.
romances.
Like, I had like KJ Charles out from the library in physical, and then I didn't get to them.
Uh-huh.
So I'm thinking I need to update and upload stuff to my Kobo anyway, because I'm not hauling books with me.
I've super loved her two books that came out this year, but I will say that her queer romances also tend to have a little bit more of a murderous violence edge to them than you might expect. But
Does
if you
the
like-
murderous violence happen to the queers?
No,
Okay, that's
they win.
that's what I need to know, is that if it's violent to the queers, then I may not necessarily want.
The queers may have things happen to them, but they can take care of themselves and each other, and they win. So I also loved the Will Darling trilogy, which is like 1920s, maybe they're spies sort of thing. There's also a bookstore involved in it.
I will ask you more about these on Discord.
Okay.
Definitely, because I need some. Basically, imagine like I'm going on a holiday. I need some holiday reads that are holiday-y.
Well, I
like-
definitely binged Will Darling trilogy during my my Christmas holiday like 2 years ago. So it's like all I wanted to read.
Anyway,
yeah.
oh, go ahead,
Go
Rhea.
on. No,
I
I
was-
was just saying that I recently reread only the smut scenes in A Taste of Golden Iron.
Valid choice.
Only the smut scenes. I have them like, you know those tabs that you put on books when you annotate? I have put tabs on just so that I have quick access.
Also, to be fair, I feel like most of the smut scenes in that book were just like kissing.
Yes, well, I'm single. It's kissing is a lot.
The kissing stuff in romance novels is like one thing I don't get. I have even asked people questions like, is this how kissing works in real life? Because that does
Kissing
not-
is worse.
it doesn't
trust.
sound nice at
Well,
all.
depends on who. Like if you like if you're in a like straight-ish or straight like it's great when it's not a straight guy.
Okay.
Because I think straight, like at least in my experience, straight guys get ideas of what that kind of interaction is from you know where.
No matter what
And it's
romance
not
novel
great.
I read, if there's a description involving tongue, I just nope out.
The tongue is no, thank you.
I was buddy reading something with Shannon not that long ago, and I flat out asked her, I was like, is this something that people really do?
Yeah, it's not great.
Why is this so common in romance novels, but it sounds just unhygienic?
Well, it's like it's common also in real life, and part of it is but because like I feel like in a lot of things, like when things happen in real life, that is when these things happen, people first of all they don't ask for consent, they just do what they want, and second of all they don't ask what you actually like, they just do what they want.
So is it maybe possible that a lot of people don't like that, but it just happens?
I mean, possible. Like, I guess some people must like it since it creeps into fiction as well. Like, it must be someone's kink. But it's like every single time I have this conversation with people, it's usually people are like, "Yeah, that's uncomfortable. I wish they stopped doing."
Whoever invented French kissing, please stop.
Anyway, to other topics, maybe we should close out, I guess.
All right. So I guess where can people find? I think we already talked. Like, I'm at Bookish Die. I will probably have stuff coming out this week as I frantically finish editing shit that I've been putting off. Rachel.
You can find me on Instagram. I'm Kalanati Books there, and I am Kalanati on Blue Sky. I am no longer active on Twitter. So yeah, and if you want to follow me, it's mostly spinning and jigsaw puzzle content this month.
I would say that you will not find me anywhere until February, because in 2 weeks I will be flying. And I will be back in late January. So next month, Stitch and Bitch, I also most likely won't be joining unless you happen to host it in literally the last week of the month.
We're gonna have to decide what to do actually about January. It might be a bit of a off month given all of our schedules and stuff.
Yeah.
but-
I think in any case, if January does happen, it will be on Rachel's channel because I think I have hosting duty. Is it?
I have no recollection now.
Let me.
I think I have hosting duty after you.
Maybe we
Um,
kind of got out of sync. We may need to start over with the new schedule to get straight.
I think Rachel, I'm double checking your schedule. Yeah, Rachel, you're up for January.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm February.
Well, we'll discuss and we'll see what we can make happen for next time. But yeah.
In any
Anyway,
case,
it was good chatting with you.
and
And-
have happy holidays, everyone.
Happy
Yes.
holidays and
Happy Hanukkah to all those who are celebrating right now.
Yep.
And yeah, we will chat with you later. Bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye.